All right, so our next speaker is James Pirnay, who's going to talk about companion animals in the 21st century. And he's got 10 years of experience in the field of animal welfare and conservation. He specialised in companion animal programs. He joined Four Paws in 2016 as EU Policy Officer, where he worked on campaigns aimed at reducing the illegal puppy trade and regulating online pet trade in Europe. In March this year, he was appointed Head of Community Engagement as part of Four Paws' International Companion Animal Programme. In his current role, James is responsible for Four Paws' Stray Animal Care Community Engagement, Dogs for People, a stray animal assisted therapy program, and Four Paws Shelter Assistance Program. Prior to joining Four Paws, James worked as an EU Policy Officer and Program Manager for the International Fund for Animal Welfare, IFOR. In his role, he helped to find humane and sustainable solutions for communities in Europe struggling to manage the stray dog and cat populations. He also led the launch of IFOR's education program, developing education materials and targeting international schools worldwide. James holds a master's degree in social sciences and anthropology from a Belgian university whose name I can't pronounce. I'm sorry, James, but you can say it. and another one from Italy. My goodness, these are big words. The subject of his thesis was anthropomorphism of the dog in Western culture. Thank you very much, James.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure for me to be here today with you, even without my luggage, which is still somewhere between Bangkok and Sydney. It's very unusual for me to be dressed like this to present, because in Europe we're all very like shirt, tie, all that stuff. So yesterday I had to go to, after the workshop, I had to go to a shopping mall. I found a shirt. I found a nice gilet, some new shoes, underwear, socks. But by the time I started looking for trousers, the shops were closing. So I hope you will forgive me for the jeans. But I heard that things here work much differently than they do in Europe. So this is it. So before I begin my presentation, I would like to thank G2Z and the organizers of the 7th Summit for giving us the opportunity to come and present before you today. I also want to thank everyone for welcoming me in your country. This is my first time in Australia, and I'm really excited to be here. Initially, Julie Sanders, Four Paws Companion Animals Director, was supposed to present today, but due to conflicts in her agenda, she couldn't make it, so she asked me to replace her. Therefore, I will kindly ask you to bear with my French accent instead of Julie's lovely British accent. So the purpose of my presentation today, Companion Animals in the 21st Century, is to show how in recent years human factors such as fashion trends and consumerism, combined with technological developments such as the internet and online trade, have helped to drive significant change in the way companion animals are bred, sold, and bought. We will see how this is contributing to a growth in demand for pedigree and designer pets, and how these animals are treated as products and commodities in a throwaway society. I have to apologize. I will be speaking about companion animals, but I will speak more about dogs. Not that we do have projects with cats, but most of our work at Four Paws is with dogs. So I apologize for the people who are more cats than dogs, but this is the way it is. So I'm just going to grab a glass of water. So to begin with, I will introduce you to Four Paws International. Then I will talk about stray animals, the sources of stray dogs, the visible versus the invisible stray dogs. I will then talk about causes of abandonment and the stray animal issue as a global problem. After that, I will tell you more about some of the things that Four Paws is doing to address some of these some of the issues around stray animals. And then I will conclude with some final remarks. So Four Paws is an international animal welfare organization founded in Austria in 1988. We are about 350 people, employees working in 12 countries worldwide, including Europe, Australia, Asia, the US, and South Africa. Our activities and projects include stray animal care worldwide, sanctuaries for rescued bears, big cats, and orangutans in Europe, South Africa, and Indonesia, horse rescue in Romania and Jordan, national and international campaign to improve the welfare of companion animals, but also farm animals and wild animals. And we also have a disaster response team ready to help animals in need during natural, but also during man-made disasters. Sorry, I get thirsty very quickly, so I think it's a bit the stress of the language. Right. So our international stray animal care program runs in Europe, Africa, Southeast Asia, and Australia. So what we do is through strategic partnerships with local communities where we work, we aim to reduce the stray animal population using CNR, which is currently recognized by WHO as the only effective and sustainable method. But we believe that CNR is not enough to address the issue in the long term, so we combine it with community engagement and community outreach events where we teach responsible pet ownership. And I know that Miles will not like this, but I will bring his comment back to the office and to the organization. Responsible pet ownership to reduce dogs being abandoned in the future. In our work, we try to really engage as many stakeholders as possible. So we engage with the national local authorities, the vet agencies, the local vets, the NGOs, and of course, the residents. In Australia, Four Paws supports AMRIC, the animal management in rural and remote indigenous communities, to provide dog health and welfare education in those remote indigenous communities. So what I want to talk about today is stray dogs and the different impacting stray dogs in terms of creating the stray dog population. We can say that we have two types of stray dogs. We have the stray dogs who have an owner. They're the owned roaming dogs and the lost dogs. And the dogs who don't have an owner anymore, they're the abandoned dogs and the unknown dogs reproducing on the street. Often there's a focus about stray dogs in terms of the dogs living on the streets and the dogs who are abandoned on the street. They're what we can call the visible strays because they are on the street and we see them. And today their population is estimated at around 500 million worldwide. But there are also massive numbers of dogs that are abandoned, particularly in Western Europe, and you don't see them because they're immediately picked up by local authorities and brought to shelters. They are what we call the invisible strays. They are strays, but if they were not picked up, they would be on the street. So we have a different way of doing things. So they might be rehomed or might be euthanized. And an example is in the UK, and I'm taking it as an example while they're still in the EU. In the UK in 2015, over 47,000 dogs were abandoned and over 5,000 dogs were euthanized. And when you ask people on the street in Western Europe if we have a problem with stray dogs, people will say no. But actually we do have a problem with stray dogs. It's just that they're either euthanized or put into shelters. So one of the concerns we have at Four Paws is that we see in Europe, but also in other regions, factors influencing the way animals are bred, sold and bought, and how these factors are contributing to more and more animals being abandoned. Irresponsible pet ownership certainly plays a major role in animal abandonment. But jointly, we've seen in recent years other factors such as fashion trends, internet, and consumerism. And these factors often lead to impulsive purchasing behavior, resulting in more animals being abandoned. There are, of course, other reasons for abandonment, like housing problems, like we see a lot in our countries, people having pets in rented accommodation, and then for some reason they have to move into another rented accommodation where pets are not allowed, and so these are other reasons, or lifestyle, or life. Oh my God, 10 minutes. Ooh, I have to rush. Or lifestyle changes following a separation, a divorce, the arrival of a baby, a job loss, and so on. So I'm going to focus today on the ones that are mentioned here. So responsible pet ownership is often the result of a lack of knowledge on the animal's basic needs and behavior. For example, dogs that are left alone too long will develop aggressive or abnormal behavior. Responsible pet ownership is often the result of lack of knowledge on special breed needs. Today, we see more and more people keeping breeds like huskies or big dogs in small apartments, where these dogs are not suited at all for this type of environment. It's a lack of knowledge on the cost and responsibility that owning an animal involves. Pets need food, care, and also, of course, a lot of time. It's a lack of knowledge on socialization and training. Dogs that are not properly socialized and trained will more likely develop aggressive behavior. And it's a lack of knowledge on the needs for lifetime care. So dogs live up to 15, 20 years, and they're cute when they're puppies, but they grow and they get older, and they need care all during their entire life, even when they're old and sick. And we see, unfortunately, owners who cannot take care of their animals anymore because they're old. Fashion trends. Our 21st century society is heavily influenced by fashion trends, and this does not apply only to clothes, cars, phones. Our pets are also bought today to project a desired image, a status, trend. But fashion trend is not sustainable. When fashion changes, pets are no longer wanted. So we're really talking here about short-term needs. And this is amplified by a celebrity culture where mass media celebrities are taken as role models. We often see celebrity fans wanting to own the same pets as the celebrities, just to identify themselves a bit more to them. In recent years, we've seen a major increase in popularity for cute breeds, such as the French Bulldog, the Chihuahua, and teacup breeds, but also for unusual breeds, as I said, huskies. And we also see an increase in demand for designer dogs, such as the Cockapoo and the Labradoodle. The problem is that a society that is driven by fashion trends in regards to mass media celebrities as a role model is not grounded into fundamental life values, and therefore disregards the long-term implication of being a responsible pet owner. In today's global marketplace, where consumers have access to an unlimited range of products, competition plays a central role. And this applies not only to the selling of goods, but also to the selling of animals. This is why we start seeing more and more ads of this type, special offers, where future owners can acquire puppies and kittens at a very special price, and they can even obtain a credit for that. This is the kind of ad that stimulates impulsive purchasing behavior. And then very quickly, at least in Western Europe, we have a demand-linked breeding that develops. And in Eastern Europe, we have a huge amount of puppy and kitten farms that supplying Western Europe with animals. And these animals are bred and held in horrible conditions. And because of this, animals are now seen as commodities, as products to trade. So the internet and online trade. Also through the internet and online trade, people, future owners can just go through thousands and thousands of pets, and sorry, I'm a little lost in my notes. I'm trying to follow this. They can just go through the ads without having. When previously they had to think about what pet they wanted, where the breeder was. So before we had to invest much more time before owning a pet, where today with the internet things can be done very, very quickly. Pets have become very easy to buy, and it's been become very easy to buy and acquire animals through the internet. Sometimes through these online pet stores, you can click on the animal you want, pay online, and you even get the animal delivered the next day. So there's no real contact between sellers and buyers, or very little contact. There's very little information also given to the about the animal. The animal is just delivered. No one checks if the buyer is even suitable for the animal. It's not clear. It's not always clear where the sources of the animals are. When we think it's important for the future buyer to at least see the mother of the pets, and as I said, pets can be delivered even the next day at home. So because of all these factors, we're becoming very much a throwaway society. We use animals just like we use products, and when they're no longer wanted, we just dispose of them. And this is becoming a global problem. We see. I'm just going to run a bit more quickly because I still have a lot of things to say. But we've talked to Soy Dog Foundation in Southeast Asia, who've told us that there's an increasing number of pedigree dogs, designer dogs on the streets in Southeast Asia. And people keeping also breeds like huskies, where huskies are absolutely not suited for this kind of hot climate. Also, in Bangkok, in the Chatuchak animal market, you can see hundreds and hundreds of pedigree dogs just kept in horrible conditions. So now that we've seen the factors influencing the way animals are bred, sold, and bought and abandoned, I'd like to tell you more about what 4Paws is doing to try to address the issues. First, in terms of regulating the online selling of animals, we have a campaign called Pet Deception, where we want to tackle poorly regulated trading of pets on classified ad sites. So we understand that some people don't want to see animals sold at all online, but in a society where most of our shopping is made online, we've decided to try to regulate it, self-regulate it, rather than to try to forbid it completely. So what we've done is that over a two-year period, we've researched 43 classified ad sites in 10 countries to get evidence of what's actually happening online. And during that period, we identified some of the key issues, and at the same time we developed animal welfare measures. The key welfare measures are online seller verification, the animal welfare, everything related to the animal welfare, and the enforcement of the measures. So we engage also in corporate dialogue with classified market places such as eBay, because eBay, eBay is a kind of overarching company for smaller classified ads sites. And we also engage with the public. We have over 165,000 signatures for a petition calling to introduce our measures. The other thing we really like to see is the mandatory registration of all breeders and sellers. In the EU, we have an EU animal health law that will be in place by 2020, which will put this in place. But however, we want to make sure that this means that all breeders and sellers need to be registered with a competent authority and have all their details available in a publicly accessible database, so that if somebody buys an animal online and something happens, these sellers and breeders can be traced. We'll be launching a public awareness campaign in 2018 to support this. Identification registration are really key element to dog traceability. They're a useful thing to reunite lost or abandoned pets with their owners. Our goal is to develop a secure and traceable system for INR of pets, implement this system at EU level, because the problem we have in Europe at the moment is companion animals are not regulated by EU rules. So it's up to the member states, the national member states, to put legislation in place regarding companion animals. So we're trying really to put things at a higher level and coordinate it across the member states. Responsible pet ownership, this is a very important one. We want to educate, again, sorry to Miles for the word, but we educate the public on responsible pet ownership to improve the well-being and the quality of life of companion animals. We achieve this through public awareness campaigns, information and community activities. And we also have two platforms, Caradog, Caracat, which are websites dedicated to educating experts in the EU, but they're also a very useful, interesting source of information for the public. We're also, at 4Paws, we don't want to see animals kept in shelters in the long term. We think that shelters are a short-term, temporary solution. That's why we want to build and create an adoption culture. It's a huge challenge, but we want to work with shelters, particularly in the Balkan and Southeast Asia, where they really struggle with issues around adoption. So we'll have this program, International Shelter Assistance Program, will be launched. We're piloting it this year and next year with selected shelters. And then we're planning to do a big launch in 2019, where shelters will be able to apply online and will be offering support to develop effective adoption programs. Now, my final remarks is that we're all responsible. I went through a couple of, when I talked about owners, future owners, internet platforms, breeders and sellers. We're all responsible. It's all our role. It's a multi-faceted issue, and we all need to take part in the solutions. The owners need to make sure they microchip their pets, vaccinate and control, also keep their pet healthy, train and socialize their pet, provide lifetime care, and follow legal requirements, either alone or with the help of organizations in their countries. Future owners need to understand the commitments linked to becoming an owner. We don't want to see them influenced by fashion trends. We want them to choose the right pet that suits their lifestyle. We want them to be able to ask lots of questions. And of course, we want them to adopt rather than buy. Breeders and sellers, we want them to favor animal welfare before profit, to avoid inherited disorders in animals. We want them to socialize puppies before selling them, to check the buyer's suitability, and to provide enough information on the animals. Internet platforms should verify sellers' identity. They should provide animal welfare information. They should forbid non-animal welfare practices, and they should try to connect responsible sellers with responsible buyers. Governments should have in place enforceable legislation regarding animals, abandonment of animals. They should put in place mandatory microchipping and registration, online regulation of internet trading of animals, register of all breeders and sellers for better traceability and accountability. Local authorities should promote responsible pet ownership within the local community, have effective mechanism for collecting and rehoming abandoned animals, develop humane, effective but also realistic population control and solutions for the management of stray dog populations, and effective enforcement of animal welfare legislation. And of course, ourselves, NGOs, in terms of being the voice for animals, our role is to raise awareness of their situation, to educate the public and the different stakeholders, to campaign to improve their welfare, and of course to try to work together as much as we can. And with this, I would like to thank you. First, I would like to thank my collaborators, Julie Sanders, but also Carol De Fraga from Paws Australia, who helped me a lot in the organization of my visit, and Alex Monteanu, and of course you for your attention. And if you have any questions, I will be happy to try to answer them later. Thank you very much.